My beautiful friends, what is up and welcome back to the Loosely Bound YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be sharing a few things that I finished in the month of July, what I'm reading now, and some things that I hope to get to in the month of August. So it's a little bit of a reading wrap up and a to be read video. Before we get into everything, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, if you would take a second to subscribe, that would really mean the world to me. The first thing I finished in July was an audiobook that I was listening to on Audible, and it was The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I have a full review for The Maidens. It's going to pop up right up here for you somewhere if you want to check that out. I read The Silent Patient, which was Alex Michaelides' debut novel a few months ago, and absolutely loved it. So I was so excited for The Maidens to come out. I read The Maidens, and while I don't think the story was quite as strong as The Silent Patient, I still gave it 5 stars because there were so many little Easter eggs that tied into the Silent Patient plot line, and being able to find those little connections throughout 2 different storylines and just see them tying together in the same world was so amazing to me, and such a fun little like Easter egg hunt to play while I was listening to The Maidens. I would definitely recommend The Maidens to anyone that's looking for a fun kind of like thriller, murder mystery type of novel. It's also got a lot of tie-ins to Greek tragedy and Greek mythology, I guess you would say, and that just made the story a little bit different than other murder mysteries that you might have picked up. And I was so glad that I was able to kick July off with a 5-star rating. I was also reading The Midnight Library by Matt Haig in a hardcover physical book, and I was so excited for The Midnight Library, and unfortunately this one just fell really flat for me. I do have a full review of The Midnight Library that you can check out right up here somewhere. So The Midnight Library is about a girl named Nora Seed that dies, and after she dies, instead of going to, you know, heaven or hell or her life just being over, she ends up in a place called the Midnight Library. The Midnight Library is a library, but every novel in the Midnight Library is a different scenario in the way that Nora's life could have gone. So for example, if she had decided to move out of the country with her friend instead of staying where she was, if she had taken that other choice, that other journey, this is the way her entire life would have turned out from there. Or if she had stayed together with this boyfriend instead of breaking up with him, this is how her life would have gone if she had made that other decision. The Midnight Library actually gives Nora the opportunity to go live these different lives and let her choose the perfect life for herself. So that sounded like the coolest plot line I've ever heard of, and I was so freaking excited to read this book. Like I said, I even got the hardcover version of it because I was positive that this was a book that was going to live on my shelf forever and ever, and I would just love it and cherish it, and that is just not what happened, and I was so disappointed. I gave The Midnight Library only 2 stars, which I feel like I'm a very generous rater. There's not a lot of stuff that I don't like, so for me to give something 2 stars just means it was just not good for me at all. I really struggled to get through it. My first issue was I just did not like the main character, Nora. I thought she was just very whiny and had such a victim mindset, and I just didn't really care about her because I didn't like her personality at all. I also didn't really enjoy that The Midnight Library had this really cool plot line, but I feel like it turned into like kind of like a self-help, just kind of like a warm and fluffy kind of read. So basically, like, the whole moral of the story was that you're like in control of your life, and you get to kind of determine what life you're going to lead because you're in control of your choices. It just didn't hit where I thought it was going to hit, and The Midnight Library was really a letdown for me. A lot of people do really love this book though. It was in the Good Morning America book club list. It's highly rated on Goodreads. So if you want to check it out for yourself, I will still leave a link down below in the description box, but that's just where I kind of landed with it. It was not something that I would recommend to people. The next physical book that I read was Whispers and the Roars by Kay Webster. I got this book in my last book haul, and I actually have a video for that too. If you want to check it out, check right up here. So I got this book in my last book haul, and it was really bizarre because when I got all of the books that I ordered from Amazon in the mail, Whispers and the Roars was one that I really could not remember why I ordered it. The summary on the back of the book was very, very vague. It just talked about a girl and her ex-boyfriend, but her ex-boyfriend was moving back to town and they were hoping that they could rebuild the relationship. And I'm not into romances or anything like that, so I was like, why the heck did I get this book? Like, where did it come from? So then I started flipping through the first few pages of the book, and right in one of the first few pages, there is a warning saying that this is a dark romance and it's not for everyone, and basically proceed with caution. So that made me super, super interested, because anytime that something is going to mess me up emotionally or make me feel uncomfortable, like that's the kind of stuff I want to read. So I was weirdly super excited to see this like trigger warning in the front of the book. Then I looked it up on Goodreads, and all of the reviews that I could see were saying that I needed to go into this book with an open mind and not knowing anything about it. So as soon as I read that, like a bunch of people were saying that, and as soon as I started seeing that so many people were recommending that I read Whispers in the Roars this way, that's exactly what I did. I put down my phone, I stopped researching it, and I just started reading it. And it turned out to be such a good book. I was so happy with it. I'm not even going to tell you guys what it's about, because I do think you should really go into it the same way that I did. Just go into it with an open mind and try not to figure out what's going to happen before you get to it. I will say this is something that I didn't even for the slightest second put together. I did go into it with no assumptions, but I never even thought this was how Whispers and the Roars was gonna go. It was really, really cool. I gave Whispers and the Roars 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend it to mostly everyone. I will say you probably want to have more of an open mind going into it, but I really thought it was super enjoyable and I loved reading it. I read it in under a day because I just could not put it down. Then I started listening to The Stand by Stephen King as an audiobook. This is one that I've had downloaded for a long time now, but I was really scared to start it because this book is like a 47-hour listen. But I feel like everyone that I talk to that has read The Stand really enjoys it. And it's obviously, I love Stephen King, like who doesn't love Stephen King? So I know it's gonna be a good one. I started listening to it a few days ago. I was taking a 12-hour road trip and I figured this would be the perfect time to go ahead and put a dent in The Stand. I'm about 20 hours in. I do listen to my audiobooks sped up a little bit, so I've already gone through about 20 hours, which is super cool. So far, it's really good. I also don't know really what The Stand is about. I read the summary, but it wasn't super clear to me what it was about. Where I am now is there's some type of flu type virus that's spreading throughout the world, but it's very contagious and it's moving very quickly and it is eliminating people very rapidly. So basically, as soon as you catch this virus or this bug or whatever you want to call it, within a few days you're dead. It does seem like there are a few people that are immune to the virus, but really to be 20 hours in, I don't know that much about like what direction this book is going to go into. I've said this in past videos too, but if you interact with any character in a Stephen King book, whether it's your banker or your gas station attendant or whoever, you're going to know each character's backstory and why they're making the moves that they're making, no matter how significant they are to the actual plot. And I love that so much because it just makes the whole world have so much depth to it, and it's just crazy how Stephen King can write and make me care about these really insignificant characters. So far, I've probably come into contact with like 10 main characters, I would say, and we're kind of rotating through their lives and how the virus starts affecting them and just all of these different details. I feel like a lot of what I've listened to so far doesn't really have anything to do with the plot. I am just learning so much about these different characters. But also, I am listening to the uncut version of The Stand. I know when The Stand first came out, it was already super long, and then they made him cut a lot of it out. So I'm wondering if a lot of this is just kind of the extra that he originally included with it, and maybe they cut a lot of this out so it didn't seem like it was dragging on. But even though it's not really pertaining to the plot, and I am just learning a lot about the characters, is definitely not boring. I am super excited to get in my car and listen to The Stand every opportunity that I get. I really enjoy hearing all the different characters' perspectives, and it's really, really good so far. So I'm super interested to see where The Stand actually takes me. If you've read The Stand before, without spoiling anything, leave a comment down below and let me know if you enjoyed it, or if you haven't read it, let me know if this is something that it sounds like you might read. It just started pouring outside, so I don't know if you guys can hear the sound of the rain coming through my mic. If you can, I'm so sorry. So I always have an audiobook, a physical book, and a book on the Kindle app on my phone that I'm reading all at the same time. The Kindle book that I've been reading, I've actually been reading it for a while now because I just haven't been reading on the Kindle app so much. But I am reading The Whispering Dead by Darcy Coates. I absolutely love Darcy Coates. Everything I've read from her has been so, so good. She's a horror author, and horror is probably my favorite genre in movies or books or literally anything. And this one's pretty good so far. I've been trying to make a point to read it a little more frequently so I can make sure I'm moving through it and not just becoming stagnant with it. Where I'm at right now is about a girl named Kira that kind of comes awake as she's being chased through the woods by two men. She doesn't remember who she is. Well, she remembers her name, I think. She knows her name is Kira, but that's it. She doesn't know where she came from, why she's being chased, where she is now. So she's running from these guys, and she ends up coming across this house that is an Adage's house from a church. I hope I got that right. I'm not super familiar with how that stuff works. But anyway, she asks him for help and he agrees to help her. He hides her from these men that are searching for her and gives her a place to stay. Now, the house that she's staying in is in the middle of a cemetery, and her first night staying at this house, she sees a ghost, and she's like, wait, I wonder if everyone can see these ghosts or if it's just me, because she doesn't remember what she was doing before. And then she figures out that no, not everyone can see these ghosts, it is just her. And that's about where I am so far. I don't think I've spoiled anything for you. It all seems pretty basic. To have been reading this book for a few weeks now, I'm really not that far into it. I have been just spending a lot more time reading physical books and not spending so much time on my phone. Whew, now it's thundering outside. But I am really enjoying it so far. Like I said, I love Darcy Coates. Almost everything I've read from her has been a really, really good read. So I'm hoping this one stays in line with the rest of her novels and I really end up enjoying it. The physical book that I'm reading right now is The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. I also got this one in my last Barnes & Noble book haul. I think I'm about halfway through with it right now. Twisted Ones follows a character named Melissa, who goes by Mouse, and her coonhound Bongo. They're going to her deceased grandmother's house to clean it out so her father can put it up for sale. But it isn't until they actually get into the house that they realize her grandmother had been hoarding everything from creepy dolls to old newspapers to boxes and just whatever. Her house is just a hoarder's house, and there's so much stuff that Mouse is going to have to clean out. While she's going through the house and removing all of the items, she finds her step-grandfather's journal, and at first she thinks that her step-grandfather just had dementia and was writing all of these crazy things because he's talking about creatures in the woods and dead people and twisted ones, and she's like, okay, this guy is crazy. But as Mouse continues to spend nights in her grandmother and step-grandfather's house, she starts noticing some of the things actually happening that her step-grandfather had written about and is now determined to figure out everything that he was talking about. I'm really enjoying it so far. One of the things that I'm having an issue with right now is because I'm reading The Twisted Ones and The Whispering Dead at the same time, and they kind of have the same main character element. So Mouse is living alone in a house dealing with spooky shit, and Kira is living alone in this cottage dealing with spooky shit. I'm kind of getting them mixed up as I'm reading them, so it's taking me a little bit of time to really submerged back into the storyline whenever I switch from one to the other, but I am enjoying both of them right now. So hopefully I can just keep my story straight while I finish reading them. As always, there are 1,000,000,005 things that I want to read. As always, there's 1,000,000,005 things that I want to read, but I think for the next book that I'm going to read in a physical copy will be Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson. I haven't read anything by this author yet, but I picked this one up because it looks kind of light and just fun and summery. The vibes give me almost like John Green vibes. I don't know if that's how this is going to be at all, but it kind of reminds me of Paper Towns. This one is about a girl and her friend, and one of the friends goes missing, but she leaves a to-do list for her friend to do. So her friend is going through the to-do list trying to track down her friend. That sounds like super Paper Towns-y to me, right? So I hope this one's fun. I really want to read this one next because I've been reading a lot of kind of dark horror themes, so I just kind of want to break it up and read something a little lighter. I have a ton of audiobook credits that I haven't spent yet, and a ton of audiobooks that I've already bought that I haven't listened to yet. So the world is really super, super open for what I read next as an audiobook. I do have the sequel to Scythe by Neil Shusterman as an audiobook. I think the second one is called Thunderhead. I really loved Scythe. It's a young adult kind of dystopian fantasy. It was one of the better young adult books I've ever read, and I've been looking forward to the sequel a lot, but I wanted to give myself a little break in between the first and second one so I didn't get burnt out on that world. But I do already have that one waiting for me, so that might be the next audiobook that I listen to. And as far as Kindle goes, I don't think I actually have any Kindle books purchased right now. I typically find Kindle books by just going through whatever is like $5 or less, or Kindle is really great for giving a lot of free books away. Like every month they'll just give you a free book or something. I don't know. I never spend a lot of money on Kindle books though. I kind of just go through and pick something that looks cool, and I do feel like I find a lot of really good books that way. So once I finish The Whispering Dead, I will just go through and see what catches my eye and choose that from there. If you guys have any good Kindle book recommendations, please leave them down below too, because that would definitely help me in my Kindle book pursuit. And that is all I had for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to snag any of the books that we talked about, I will leave a link to all of them right down in the description box so you can easily find and order a copy for yourself there. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!